am so excited to welcome my guest today on Fertile Frequencies Radio. If you are curious about spirit babies and really how to communicate with yours and what that means, as well as talking about fertile energies and the power that you have within yourself, this episode is really going to hit all the marks that I just talked about. And welcoming Kelly Meehan. She is a spirit baby medium, author, healing visionary, and host of the Spirit Baby Radio podcast. She specializes in spirit baby communication, fertility wellness, pregnancy intuition, and grief support for all forms of birth loss. Kelly also just recently released her book, Notes from a Spirit Baby Medium, Everything You Need to Know About Spirit Baby Communication. You definitely want to pick it up. Offers insights into connecting with spirit babies, intuitive healing, and conscious parenting. Her work has been featured in global summits, podcasts, and media platforms. Well, welcome back to Fertile Frequencies. I'm so excited. I have one of my very favorite mentors, Kelly Meehan, on the show today, and she is going to be talking about spirit babies. She is the one who actually came up with the term spirit baby medium, and Kelly is an absolutely wonderful resource. And welcome, Kelly.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. This is so awesome. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. Well, I'm so excited about what you're going to bring to the listeners today. It's really fascinating to me to, as a spirit baby medium myself, I was reading, getting messages from spirit babies way before I even knew what a spirit baby medium was. I really didn't know what to do with it. And I came across you, Kelly, and you really helped me to understand and have that bigger picture of really how to use this energy, how to channel and really deliver these messages. And so I would love to get more information from you for my listeners here about how people can connect with your spirit baby, as well as some of the messages, like common themes, messages, symbols that you get, and just kind of educate us on how people can tap into that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want me to start from the beginning? Like
Yes, please
where it
start
all
from the
kind of came
beginning.
from. As you were saying that, I was like in reflection of, I've always had extrasensory perceptions like we all have, right? And I feel like for me, it really opened at puberty. We always think like I don't remember anything before that, but something about puberty like opened up my energy. To me, it was almost like just a spiritual opening. And so I've been in practice with all these different abilities. And then I put it more into deeper practice right before spirit baby energy. I was connecting with people energetically and psychically. And then I moved into pregnancy, and it really just opened me up to go, oh, what's all this more about? And I was terrified. I'm not one of those magical pregnant women. I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? There's a lineage, there's energy. And I remember even before my pregnancy, connecting with other people's spirit babies. But as you said earlier, I didn't really know what that meant because there was no template for it in this world. There was a few in the birth psychology field. There was a few pre-birth communication researchers, maybe a few books on clairvoyance. But something about 2020 opened up the energy in a more massive way for the acceptance of it. So when I created Spirit Baby Medium, I literally sat there one day and I was like, what am I? What do I do? Because I had so many ongoing titles. Healer entrepreneurs know this is like, because I would literally go to Cedars-Sinai, LA Hospital. They used to have birth professional events, and I'd go to these with the midwives, the doulas, the doctors, and healers and therapists. And then I was like, but where do I fit in? I was like, I'm not I'm not like one of their titles, but they're like, well, Kelly, you're like the spiritual birthing person. I was like, okay. And so I started my work with birth healing, and then I had an offering of pre-birth communication, which is really more around pregnancy. And then something really shifted more and more, and I started to talk to other people's babies by accident. And I actually share one in my book, a really massive story Should I give away that story? Should I make people read it? What do you think, Lindsay?
I don't know. What are you intuitively connecting with?
Because
You're
sometimes I feel
reflecting.
like I want people to read it. It's just the
Right.
opening, and then I mean, I could say it and then you could still read it. But there was a student when I was in my studies in somatic psychology, and we were all sitting in the park, and one of our student friends was pregnant. And you couldn't tell by looking at her body that she had twins in there. She had twins in there, didn't know it. And we're doing all I remember putting my hands around her and I said, "Are you having twins?" And she said, "No." And I said, "I see a boy, I see a girl, and here's what they're doing." They were doing other things around her. And then I just thought, okay, it's just my imagination. I don't know. It was a fleeing energy. It was just there. And then, a month or two later, I'm in this chain text and it's like, oh my gosh, Kelly, this student, our friend, she just gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, just like you said on that hill. And people were just like, wait, what's happening? First, they're worried about her. And then we were like, what's the story? She thought she was having one healthy 8-pound boy. She had two fours, and she didn't do any intervention. And nobody was looking, no, the Doppler, they didn't pick up a second heartbeat. I don't know why. That baby, they said later, these babies wanted to be born at home. And this was 19 years ago now. 19 years ago, oh my gosh, don't have twins at home. Oh my goodness, it's such a big deal. And now it's a little different, but she was very lucky because she had a lot of family support in the medical industry that was there and like a doctor mom and like, and so, but it was, yeah, really amazing to hear, and her children are healthy here, and so that was the real big story that was like, oh, there's something here, like there's something more. And how are we listening to that? And what do we do with that? And that would be, the opening to the work,
Mhm.
the support.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the first experiences that you had had where you had had this connection with the spirit babies.
Well, this was the first like I can think of, like, and after that opened up the energy for way more stuff coming up with babies and pregnancy. So that was just me being a student, studying, not even thinking about spirit babies. I don't even know what that was about. I just knew what I saw visually and what I felt. It just felt like I actually saw it, and you would appreciate this because you get this work. I saw a boy and a girl, and I saw them doing like almost like a tumble salt into their mom's body. Like, here's the
Yes.
boy, here's the girl. I'm like, oh, this is like kind of playful. Spirit baby can be very playful. And then I'm just kind of like, oh, okay. And then I see, I almost wasn't going to say it.
I read this in your book. This was
Yeah.
when you were in college.
This is when I was in, that's what I'm saying. I was just in
Mhm.
study with clinical psychology, somatic psychology,
Mhm.
and just learning about my own energy body. That's really what that
Right.
program taught me. Like, I feel so much, I have a lot of traumas. And there was a pre and perinatal emphasis and I didn't go near it. I was like, nope, it's so hilarious. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. I didn't realize I had such strong foundational birth traumas because I suppressed them like we all do. I
Mhm.
locked them away. And they were slowly coming out in this program through the embodiment. But I got a little bit of that class. But then I'm like, wow, I would have loved that program now that I think about it. But the
Right.
somatic program, you're like stretching and moving and you're working with these amazing teachers. So you don't do that in that class. It's more like you're kind of lecture listening. So the somatic was there's even like dance. And so it's like I think I needed that movement of energy, but it's fascinating to look back at that overlapping.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
It really is to see how you were led into your life purpose. And so, question for you is that I know with me that I was born very intuitive and lost that at about 7 years old when we typically start to get conditioned by society and the matrix, as we can call it, the illusion. Um, were you seeing a lot of energies and orbs and everyone interprets energy differently when you talk to one intuitive medium or psychic to another, everyone's perspective is different, and that's essentially what makes everything so beautiful is that everyone has their own interpretations. But just to understand a little bit about where it all started from, were you born into this world?
I was actually born very traumatically, and so those that understand this, I was a non-labored cesarean birth. breech. So I was free feet first. I was not labored. So that's there's a lot of trauma in that. And then I was cesarean. And then I came out to a mom who was mentally ill. So I went into survival actually, and I literally feel like I was in and out of my body for like probably over like 7 years probably. And I only hear pieces of stories. I hear throughout my timeline here, where my parents were like, "You were super shy." I would literally hide, and I was like thinking, yeah, because I was feeling energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't take care of everybody's energy. I thought I had to take care of my mom and dad's trauma, and it was a lot for me. So I was sick a lot. I was hospitalized, IV'd at like 5 years old, 7 years old. There was a lot of hospital time. And so I didn't know, like, and then that's why I say it was puberty that really shifted me because at puberty you're kind of like your hormones change, you're growing into a woman, right? And then my perceptions just started opening to like I could hear the tree talking to me, I could hear the animals talking to me, and people talk to me. And I was very fortunate because my parents were very self-involved. I didn't have anyone ever say, "No, you didn't." So I got
Mm-hmm.
to explore it because they were too self-involved in their reality and they were open. My mom was very much open into mediumship. She said she's always seen spirits and they've always come to her in dreams, in real life, in front of your eyes. She would go into doing, she invited me one time and I was like, no, no, no. I knew more than her because she was going to seance groups and I thought that was dangerous to open yourself up. And especially she did have mental illness on top of that because of her trauma. And so I'm like, I don't know about this. Like, and I'm thinking of a time where, yeah, she brought me into an old cemetery to do some research, and I had an experience there, and it didn't feel good to me. Like, and then my dad was very open to like ESP and like extrasensory perceptions, and he'd just be like, kind of like, oh, that's neat, but nobody ever really, and religion didn't really play a part. I know religion is a big thing. I grew up as Italian Catholic, but they were okay. A little bit with the psychic energy. I don't know. It was more of like God's will or the saints or whatever. But so like to go back to what you're saying, like I don't have full on strong memory of a lot. I felt like I was surviving for a long time. And I didn't have a way to work through my birth trauma because we weren't there consciously like we are now. Now we can work through it through craniosacral, through chiropractor, through Reiki. There's ways to holding the infant if they've had a bad birth, working with their energy field, talking to them in that more telepathic way. But yeah, it wasn't there. It was just, we all take our experiences and make them whatever. So yeah, that's my kind of opening to, and then it just, as you know, like it just opens more and more, right? I mean, for me, it did in my 20s and 30s, it just became 40s, like we keep going up there. And I feel like my perceptions continue to elevate and open me up to a world of love and beauty, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, that was a question I just that came up that I want to ask you is for people that are listening that may have experienced birth trauma themselves, or possibly they've had a baby that has experienced birth trauma, or they've had some sort of loss. What do you find that based on spear babies and your abilities to your own experiences, but really what you share? How would you explain that? Why do you feel that that actually happens on a energetic, soul, spiritual level,
Hmm.
that we experience birth trauma?
I feel like that's the question that may have many answers. Because I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to say you signed up for it. I know a lot of spiritual healers say that, like, well, you signed up for it. I don't think people like that answer. And
I'm guilty of
maybe,
saying that.
yeah, it's okay. A lot of people do. It's become a belief system that somehow, because here's the thing. When I love this saying, I'm just going to just post this recently. This woman, she says, we create ourselves into existence. We exist because of us. And the journey that we take forward into our existence, it can be full of trauma because here's the thing, we all have generational trauma. So yeah, we are probably working through the lines of energy in that, but there's no consciousness of it. We're just in it. Like my mom came through a lot of layers of trauma. She had really personal trauma too, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and then she has a baby. Well, what's that psychic, intuitive, empathic baby going to feel in her body for her? I am taking that on as my own. And that's part of the reality. So we can look back and say, yeah, you agreed to this, but I think we have to be careful with that term because when someone's like, well, I went through, maybe they're unresolved through sexual abuse, physical abuse, and war, and you're going to say, well, that's your contract. That may not sit well with people. So I'm very mindful of that energy. So I don't have the ultimate question or the ultimate answer to the question that we do have birth traumas in this reality, and I want to say they're becoming less. But in more developed cultures, there's a fear of our bodies, a fear of birthing. So there's over intervention, the fear of other people, we're over intervening, and there's patterns of like cesarean births are really high in some parts of the world, which don't need to be. Inductions in American culture and Northern, hemisphere, it's like inductions, maybe it's like that in other countries, I'm not sure. It becomes the norm and it's the restructuring. And I think more than anything, it comes back to as we enter in this world as sovereign light beings, sovereign souls, that we have all these layers that we're working on. And I've made peace on some level that yeah, I was born this very traumatic way, but no one ever really identified that for me. So I'm walking around with all these like maybe, weird emotional, mental energies, and then coming back what I call is the inner infant. Our inner infant is very valuable. It is literally right here, right now. And it will play into our relationships. We cannot help it. It can be very subconscious. And so those that are tuning in on a conception journey or pregnancy and they have fears around birth or birth trauma, I would say look at how you were born. Not just you have the information, it is a part of you scientifically and spiritually. It is. Yes, biologically, it is information in your nervous system that comes into your brain once you are more verbal. So it's in your body and your brain can then, express it more. And there's, great people in the birth psychology field. Garba Mate is one of them, and a few others can't think of right now, um, that are looking at that and just bringing an awareness to it because we have to love our inner infant. And if we've had a very damaging, traumatic entrance to the world, it doesn't mean you can't conceive and you can't have a beautiful birth, a healing conception. It just means, oh, you have stuff that you are kind of working on or looking at in different ways. And that can, again, it can play with infertility, but sometimes just knowing or asking your parents if you can, like, what was it like when you birthed me? And that's their story, by the way. That's not your story, but it can be helpful.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I think that we can associate our journey from right away that, oh, well, I'm supposed to believe that, or my parents experienced that, so I'm supposed to experience that. And I've actually seen that quite a few times in people that are experiencing fertility obstacles and getting pregnant, and being able to bring their baby earthside is that they have experienced stories of example, maybe an aunt had infertility or they had a traumatic birth or their mom had a miscarriage. I had a client a few years ago that her mom had actually experienced pregnancy loss in between her and
Mm,
my client had been hearing about it since she was old enough to know what that was, which was adolescent. And so she started planting the seed that, oh, I'm going to have infertility, secondary infertility, actually, with my second child. And that's exactly what happened because her mom
mm,
had quite a long period in between the two children that she has, her
mm,
and her brother. And so she had already planted that seed at such a young age and then actually experienced secondary infertility. I don't like the word infertility, but there's no other way to say it because that's what people know it as. So the mind is very powerful and really we have to be very careful about what we do associate with. So saying that that's their story and not necessarily your story is very important for people to hear. One thing I want to say though, I understand what you're saying. It's about the soul contract and that you chose that. But when we think about birth trauma, I had a traumatic birth as well. My mother was very abused by my biological father. In fact, he threw her down the stairs when she was
mm,
pregnant with me.
Oh,
She
wow.
almost thought that she thought she was going to lose me, that
Wow.
she was going to lose the pregnancy, but I stuck around. That's just my energy. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. But I have definitely had a lot of energies like resistance around the masculine energy my entire life and have been very like protective about, protective of me, and I've got to be hyper masculine. So I've learned a lot about that, about easing more into the feminine energy. So I feel that part of that actually happened to get me. I know in most of my lives I've been a male, and
Oh,
really to
interesting.
get
Yeah.
me to be more comfortable with the feminine energy. So it is, and that's why I'm so girly in this lifetime. You don't have to be, but it's just things that I've discovered about myself. Just giving you an example, I love sharing my own stuff because that helps people. It builds rapport, helps them understand that we're all having an experience, but that they're not alone. But, I have a hard time with believing that we don't set some of this up for our evolving and really being able to, I guess it is to work out ancestral trauma. Because if we think about, I always tell people we have soul DNA and we have physical DNA. And so, like, if you had an ancestor, could it be many, many lineage to lifetimes ago, that if they had anxiety or depression, or they were murdered, or you're going to be carrying around physically
Absolutely.
that DNA.
Yeah.
But then on the
Yeah.
soul level, you have it too. So we come in these bodies, this is my interpretation. We
Yeah.
come in these bodies to be able to work out some of that karma to continue moving the consciousness more evolved. It's a game essentially that we're playing. And I know as humans, we don't find that to be very much fun because here we are as humans, is what I've learned from the ETs, the extraterrestrials, is that and I know that you also follow the extraterrestrials as well, and I don't want to digress too much here because we're talking about spirit babies, but it's interesting because they have mentioned that we find you so interesting because of the level of emotion that you have. So it's very, as we're going through these journeys, if you're someone that's going through a fertility obstacles and you're not bringing you haven't got your baby earthside, or maybe you're trying to expand your family, you're having another baby and it hasn't happened yet and you've experienced loss, that it's hard to say, oh, well, I'm experiencing these emotions. Well, of course you are. So I understand what you're saying when you say, well, I don't really want to save people. You chose this because
Yeah.
there's all these emotions involved. So, but I just wanted to state that I love everyone's perspective is beautiful, and that's the beauty of consciousness is we can choose to, believe what we want to believe. We can choose to follow what we want to follow, and there is no right or wrong way. It's really what you resonate.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just, just to kind of, there's something you said earlier, and I want to tag on to that. This feels really important for those that are tuning in, is when I'm just a little back conversation is like just because our parents conceived us or had pregnancy and births the way they did, it doesn't mean it's our story. And that feels really important because people would tell me that when I was pregnant. Well, how was your mom's pregnancy? I was like, well, my mom had infertility, she had a miscarriage, and she had really bad births. I had none of that. So then, therefore, my point of my story is if we're getting tapped in, well, my mom had an abortion and I did, or my mom had a miscarriage and I'm going to do that. That is biology of beliefs. That's Bruce Lipton. You're changing that subconscious reality based on a story that's not even your own.
Yeah.
And that's a big one. And you're right. I do feel like we're doing a lot of ancestral healing, past life healing. Not everybody, because I feel like with New Earth children, they don't have to do it. They don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Like, why, everyone thinks that we're coming to Earth on this mission of healing. A lot of us, yes, but I feel like the higher level of frequencies that are coming in, and even adults can have this too, coming into that higher frequency, it's different. The past is irrelevant. It's just burned away. It doesn't even really exist, to be honest. And that's a hard one because when we're super activated in it, it's really intense. And I do feel like maybe we come with a rough template in this world, but what we're creating with it is completely different. Like, let's say, for example, maybe you have many doorways to death. Are you
Mm,
going to die at like 1 years old? But maybe you almost died and you're like, how did I not die in this situation? Well, maybe you changed your mind, or maybe the soul said, you know what, we're going to stick around. So that's why it's like it's hard to know. And when I have a lot of women come who have stillbirths, they're like, so, Kelly, you're going to tell me, like, they know I'm not going to tell them this. So my baby wanted to die. And it's like, whoa, it's like, again, it's that big, like you said, it's like, I don't know, like there are all kinds of beliefs and ideas, and I don't have all the answers. But
right.
I love this conversation because it's true. It's like we have to feel and discern that some things will make more sense to us depending on our own frequency, and other things will not. Like it'll just be like, okay. And I almost feel like whatever makes you feel good and aligned, it's like being in the mystery and the adventure and the creativity of life.
Yes, couldn't agree with that more. It's about really that's one mission that I have, and it sounds as though you do too, is really getting people to know and trust themselves. That is your power, is everything is internal. It's your GPS and whatever you believe in, God, source energy. It doesn't matter what you
Exactly.
call it, it's all the same
Absolutely.
thing. And it's
Absolutely.
within, it's you. And so really trusting that. And for me, I'm constantly talking about this. That's how you access your spirit baby is from
Mm,
within. It is not outside of you. I think that we think that I even know that when I started to awaken to who I truly am after my spiritual awakening, it was actually happening before when I was robbed, and I had an out of body experience. During that
mm,
experience, we think our spirit guides, for example, are outside of us. They're not. They're within you,
mm,
and they actually are you. They're just a different version of you, and
mm,
everything is just a different version of you.
mm,
So it's never outside of you. I've even gotten where I'm doing visualizations with people, rather than having them visualize an energy coming from an outside of them, like through their crown chakra, actually having them visualize that energy coming from within them, because it's
mm.
getting you in that energy of knowing that it's not outside of you. These energies are not outside of you. You are the universe. And so these babies are right here. That's
Mm.
how I feel. That's what I see. It's just empowering people to access from within versus with outside. And that's really what we need. And I feel like that's where we're going.
Where
It's
we're
just
going.
where we're
That's where
going.
we're going. You're right. Because I remember I was taught, like, even through healing, like, oh, bringing in the soul star from out, out, out. And it felt good at the time. It was fine. But then I'm like, wait a minute. Then we shift our consciousness and we're like, wait, this is all internal. Everything is internal. And how
Yep.
are we bringing that forward? And I do feel like this is very powerful, massive things to share, because this is the language we want to bring people to, is where's your own inner wisdom? You're on a fertility journey. Maybe it's been a really fucking crazy struggle, but what does that mean for you? You're an individual, you are healing, you are bringing in whatever is needed. And, like you said, I know you don't like the I word, the infertility. It's like, it's just fertility is in restructure.
Yeah.
Fertility is creative. It's just, what is that? Yeah, that even that perception of looking at it, that nothing is as wrong as you think, but we can get very caught up in like, I got to go to the doctor, the midwife, and this is not working. And I'm not minimizing. Yeah, there could be uterus issues or tube issues, egg issues, sperm issues, but is that really the bigger picture? We've made that's the external thing. We've made that the issue. But what about the internal? Like our bodies are made to heal. Our bodies are made to repair. Some are slower, some have a harder time, but that's the emotional energy. And what are we doing with that in that time of quiet as the uterus is healing, as the sperm is healing, whatever it is? It's like, wow, that's like powerful. Like our bodies know and want to create wellness, right? And it depends on where we put our perception. Because yeah, you can be caught up in, I gotta find the next, ovulation kit. I gotta find the next app. I gotta go Google it. And it's like, but then you're not inside yourself. What is your internal Google? Where is your internal wisdom? And I have to say something that just makes me laugh. This woman, she's very intense, and she's very a huge birth advocate. And she was telling women like, how here's how you do a sonogram. And it sounds like it was funny, but not really. She drew a picture of her baby and held it up like she tuned in to her baby.
Right.
And like, why is that foolish and silly? Like, she did it in a way to show an example, and through this imagery, she's like, here's my baby son. It was literally a picture, like, it's like, how are we doing this in conception and preconception, tuning in, listening to the body, and understanding the language of energy in a way that feels like grounding, in a way that feels also mysterious. We're not going to know everything, but it really does begin with us as individuals and as creative forces, as womb holders of this world. Like, this is where babies are coming through for now. And when I say for now, I don't mean like, grown in a fake womb. I mean like there are other things I'm not going to talk about now, that ways that children will be born into this world.
Yeah, absolutely. I've gotten some of those downloads too. Oh, I completely understand. That might be a little much for people. So yeah,
It's
we're on
okay.
the same
We're going
page.
to leave that on the
We're gonna
back.
leave it. We're gonna
And then we'll talk about it in the next 5 years. They'll be like,
no,
oh
no, no.
yeah, we totally get
But
it.
I've gotten information about, I'd love to hear your take on it because I know you talk about New Earth children.
Mhm.
And so what I like how I guess I could call it a download something is that there's really this energy of that your physical body has to be ready to be able to hold as a container these energies that are actually coming in to this 3D reality now, which we're going to call them new earth children. And so, but also your energy needs to be in the place to be able to hold this as well. How could you, I know that my philosophy, maybe that's the first time you've heard it, or I don't know if you've experienced getting information like that, but how would you explain that? Like, when you talk about new earth children, what
Mhm.
essentially does that mean? And does that link up with what I'm talking about, like your body actually physically being a vessel, being able to contain this really high vibrational energy that's coming in?
So children are coming in with higher frequencies, and I would even say that anybody that's having birth right now is going to have a new earth child. And on top of that, if they have other special gifts and anomalies, we'll call them, that's something different, right? Because consciousness is changing, the new earth is changing, and a lot of the new earth is going to go through massive rebirthing in the next years. We see it, we feel it, we're a part of it. We can sit in our quiet, and I'm not saying that to scare people. There is going to be destruction and endings for new beginnings. We even have it actually, if you look in the night sky at the blue star, the blue Kachina, the prophecy said when the blue star comes, and it's been here for I don't know how many years now, but this is like wild to really see that like, oh, look at even the universe, the earth, the stars, that it's the end of new beginnings. And again, I know people go into really dark apocalyptic places with that. But if we can just sit with the love energy of new beginnings and the new earth, and it's not just the new earth children, it's new earth adults and humans, because we're ready for it. Consciousness is changing, and we're really meant to be really authentic. But how I interpret the new earth child coming in like with such freedom, like not even much of a lineage. They're not, we right now here, many of us, and I know Lindsay's with me in the, we're working through a lot of shit. Like
Yeah.
we've had to work so hard, so hard. These children do not have to do that. They're not in that frequency. There'll be other probably more adults waking up to do more of the work. I feel like it's the people that are really in this physical cellular body that are doing it. So these new earth children, they have such a different mission, and they're actually doing it. They're working with the earth grid, they're working with the animals, they're doing it already, and they're not even here in their body yet. But when they come into their body, one of the things, I have a new earth child. Not both my children came through in that frequency, but my second one did. They birth the way they want in a really easy way, and if they have trauma, they're eliminating it. They're not staying with it. They're never sick. They're not
Mm,
sick. Like
yeah.
our new world energy, we don't have to be sick. That is a whole other frequency of consciousness, doctors and medical. And I want to challenge people to really sit with that. Like, what is this over intervention? It's really the fear of love. I feel like we need love from somebody else, from other energies. What else about these children? They have such a groundedness and an easefulness in this world. They don't have to do all the stuff again. And they come with a lot of love. They come with their own mission too. And there's more. I go into details in that book, but as a witness to see it, I was like, wow, it does feel like an easier life. I'm not gonna lie. They do, but they came in with that inner agreement with themselves and creating themselves into being with you in this journey. And is there a family of healing lineage? I want to even say not as much as you think, actually. They can transform it very quickly. Whereas I'm going to use my children example. I look at my firstborn, who I don't feel like he fits in the new earth vibration. He does have abilities and other connections, but he's working through the lineage of ancestral, of the masculine, of my two grandpas dead within 8 months apart. Like I can see in his physical body, he's working through it he does it through sickness. And I'm like, part of me is like, shit, because that's how I was doing it. He's a lot like my energy. He's taking on the hologram and the echo of that trauma. And this is like probably a whole other conversation, but I wanted to use that example. But also, I look at my children, like my older child, he had a bit of trauma through his birth. He's also clairvoyant and clairsentient. And
Mhm.
that does, when we have that traumatic thing, we do open up very fast different portals. Whereas the second one, he doesn't have to have that story. He has no trauma foundation. And I'm like, that's all I've ever known. And all the people and my parent, and so it's quite extraordinary to be a witness. Like, I didn't even think that energy existed, to be honest, because I've never seen it. And just to see it, and I'm just in awe and observation with it. And I see a lot of New Earth children, and I'm so happy because these children, we didn't get that. Like, even Lindsay, you shared, that's a massive experience you had, like, but you were going to still come. Like, that's huge to the inner infant of where you are as an adult and what you're building an attraction with other relationships. And yet, to these other children, it's just like, again, it feels like a snap of a finger. They're like, oh, just going to erase that timeline changers, erasers of old past history, grid workers. These are some of the babies in pregnancy I've seen, like just here to help the animals and just be in love and just show up like as these beautiful beings. It doesn't mean they're not going to have struggles and things are going to come up, but their baseline to me is like it's like they're taking a leap over all the garbage. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I do. And that's really powerful as someone that works with people in subconscious mind work of
Yes.
really rewriting an
Yes.
experience in your subconscious mind. They're already way advanced past that. They already just know to do that without
Yes.
even knowing what the heck we're even talking
Yes.
about. They're
Exactly.
just coded with it. And there is some scientific proof on the immune system that when you
Hmm.
are in a higher frequency, so that wouldn't translate into that when you are not stressed out, as people that might be on the verge with some of the stuff that we're talking about that are listening to this, that your immune system is going to be higher when you are in a higher frequency. So when you are in those vibrations of peace and love and happiness, I mean, you always are love, but when you're in those higher frequencies, you're not stressing out and you're just really the I am, you're just enjoying the
Mm,
experience versus stress out about how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? I remember when I worked in corporate America, which is many years ago, I got sick all the time because I felt like my soul was caged and I wasn't in the right place. So that is something to pay attention to, even if you're not a new earth kid, is that if your immune system is off, you probably need to check in with your energy and your
mm,
frequency because it really is going to attract disease based on because disease, what is disease? It's dis-ease. You're out of
mm,
alignment. And so really checking in with your energy if you're not feeling well and you're probably stressing out about things. And as someone that is people that are trying to conceive, telling someone don't stress out, just relax. Like that's not something I know that people want to hear, but it's just in your entire journey of anything in your life, everything is the experience. And so remembering that your whole experience, your fertility journey too, is part of the whole bigger picture. So, um, learning to regulate your central nervous system and really remembering that you are love and you are a high vibrational infinite being, rather than focusing on the 3D world. Just give yourself grace and time if that's new to you, but it is really important to. Just remember that because that's really how you do find the joy and the peace. And Kelly and I could talk about that all day long. But I do have a question for you in relation to your son, since you've experienced this of having two different children that they're
Mhm.
both absolutely wonderful and no one's better than anyone, but we just have different, we're here for different experiences and as I would say, different kind of roles. So what would you tell someone that maybe is trying to conceive or is pregnant now, about what they can do? Like, okay, we'll give the example of someone that is having fertility obstacles. Um, with so many of the kids coming in, which I agree with you, I feel that they are the new age, the new earth, kids that are coming in. Uh, what would you tell someone that they can do to prepare for that? Is there anything that they can do?
I mean, the best thing we can do is work with ourselves in our frequency because everything is frequency. And when I use the term frequency, it's literally the you. It's your signal. It could be like I like to use the example like a sound, like a pitch, a connection. And so your frequency, without overthinking it, it's in attraction with baby being. And it doesn't mean you're the same frequency. It just means that whatever you're connecting with. And so I feel like on a conception journey, we're really just doing our own self-work in it. And I think that's what more women and men need, more than just going, okay, begging baby to be born. Like, I know some people will go into that, but it's like you are in, I feel like I always like to go, and you are in a timeline of pregnancy. It is here. It's right here in front of you. You feel your baby, and you're like dropping into surrender to the merging of that. And I'm going to say you're going to have to, at times, put that left brain on the back, shelf because it's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. What if you're just being, walking with nature, resting, and just being aware of like, do I need to do action? Is it quiet time? What is nourishing do I need in this external world to feed that internal connection? And more than anything, I feel like talking to your baby beings like, hi, I always love this. Hello, my baby being. I'm here. I'm ready. I love you. And it's okay if it's one-sided. Some people feel like, I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything. And I know we hear this a lot, right, Lindsay? But it's like,
Right.
no, energy is a language. It's speaking to you, but you're looking at a certain language that's not there. So if you're
Mm.
looking at it through the lens of this world, it's not there. When we get really accustomed to the language of energy, we literally see everything through energy. It's how we manifest, it's how we create. We don't always have to think about it. Sometimes it just comes because we've set our energy up for it. And so there's so many different ways to open to conception. I left out working with healers, working acupuncture, naturopaths, whatever is like going to get us to just be quiet. To just like, we all have traumas. And guess what? Baby is going to come through trauma. They're not. So don't feel like, oh, I have to have everything healed. I got to have my grief healed. I got to have my father relationship healed. I got to have my mother relationship healed. It's like, it's okay. It's layers and there's levels to it. And you're just in receiving. And one thing I like to tell women is that, and men, is receive yourself first and then receive baby. Can we fully receive ourselves first? Like, that's huge. And again, babies are not looking for perfection. So it's a relationship, and we can put out whatever energy we want to our children. And those I know that are tuning in, you hear your children. You wouldn't be listening to this. You feel it, you know it, but then you're like, well, what's the result? Is it working? Is it not working? Maybe you've had loss. You're like, I don't understand. And then you're on the journey of like, okay, I'm opening, I'm connecting, I'm grounding. I love embodiment stuff. Many know I have that somatic background. It's like our bodies are channeled information. We have to listen and be loving and kind and open with it and see what that next step is, right, on that path.
Well, speaking of, that's beautiful, Kelly. Thank you. Speaking of, what would you say some common ways that a spirit baby might be communicating with someone that's listening to this?
Oh my gosh, there's like so many different ways, right? There's like, I've in my book, I've really wrote a lot of details. Like babies can communicate in meditation, of course, randomly driving around town, doing the laundry, walking through the house. You can be more of a feeler, more of a visual sensor. Babies will communicate through animals, send you signs, symbols, through numbers, through colors. Did I say colors? through dreams, daydreams and nighttime dreams, through music, through dance. There's like literally, it's unlimited. I had recently someone where the baby wanted to, it showed me them cooking. I'm communicating when they're cooking in the kitchen and I'm there and just be in that love space. It doesn't always have to be, I have to be clicked in and connect with baby. You could be walking through the beach and just feel a connection. You're walking outside in nature. There's no strong rules about it. And I think that really gets people because like, no, I've got to sit here and do this specific thing. And it's
Right.
like, you could, but let's open up that whole energy that baby is here. Baby's a part of you. I've had babies come through with knitting. And I'm thinking, I'm going to tell this woman, I don't even know if this woman knits. And luckily, the two women I've shared this with, they were knitters because their baby said, knit with me, mommy. That's work communication. Because you know, when you're knitting, I know I'm knitting a scarf like forever. You are kind of quiet. You're kind of doing, it's very like kinesthetic, and you're just like in this creative space. You're weaving. And sometimes we do need an external reminder of creation, right? Like doing art. Like I'm creating. I did at one time really beautiful baby image. You can print it from the computer and you can decorate it with colors and glitter and pens. And I actually attended a funeral, a virtual funeral for a really well-known birth psychology in the field. And I wish I should show you this picture. I don't have it, but I created this really wild, it was like symbols and it looks like light language all around, just sitting with this energy and in a hypnotic way. So, and I could even call that psychic artistry, writing. Oh, writing is one too. So there's so many different ways we can be in communication, and you find your way and it will change, and that's okay. Whatever works for you, it's real, and you are connecting, and you are the only one that can open to that. Nobody can tell you, hey, you have to then go in the experience of it and see and listen and keep trusting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all about choice. We get to choose, you know? And so, well, I love that you brought up the knitting because I think that you did that intuitively so that I could tell a little bit of a story here. I had a client many years ago that was going through IVF. She had one of the lowest ovarian reserves I had ever seen for someone that was under the age of 30. I'd never seen anything like this. And again, this was relating to the other story that I had mentioned with my client that with the secondary infertility of her mother. This one was an aunt. So she had
Mm.
heard from early, very early on about her aunt's infertility. And so my client had really picked up and planted that seed and then had experienced. So that's really where the low ovarian AMH was really coming from, was a seed that she had planted. So, but anyway, I just got this intuitive message. This was way before Spirit Babies. I didn't even know what it was, that I was getting this intuitive message to have her knit. And so she started knitting. She started knitting blankets during the 2 week wait of her embryo transfer. They had one embryo. And the night before she found out that she was pregnant, she sent me a picture, and there was a light in the shape of an angel. It was very small. It was like just like a couple inches high that was on the door of her outside of her condo. And the light the that must have been from the moonlight or something was shining on the door, and it was in the shape of an angel. She has no
Wow.
idea where this was coming from, but it was the knitting was so helpful for her, and I believe to this day
Yeah.
that that is why she actually had a successful transfer. And then she saw the angel, and the
Mm.
universe was really saying, her spirit baby was saying, hey, I'm coming. You're going to find out tomorrow. You're going to find out from your blood test that I'm actually coming. So these intuitive impulses that we get are so, so powerful. And yes, absolutely. Obviously, that her baby was communicating through me, didn't even know that's what it was, but it can come through someone like us or as mediums, or it can come through you as the person listening to this. There's so many different ways that they do connect. And so I know that's often a question that people will ask me, is how the babies will actually connect. I think it's beautiful that you shared that, and also letting people know that, like you said, it doesn't have to be one way, and it's really getting out of the way. And getting out of the way, what we essentially mean by that is getting out of your ego and getting more into trusting that creative sort of vibe, like when you're a kid, that how you feel when you're a kid. That's really essentially who you are. as this
Mm.
infinite creative being that has just these impulses in the moment. And those are really how you navigate the journey versus being like, well, should I really think about this? Is this real? Am I just playing? That's your ego. That's
Mm.
not who you truly are. So that's a human part of you. So yeah. Well, awesome. Well, you know what, Kelly? What about your book? You've mentioned that, and I want to have people hear, oh yes, there it is. And I've read many parts of it. I haven't read all of it yet, but it is incredible. Definitely pick it up. And what inspired you to write that book? I'm always
So
curious
the
about
book is, I don't know if those that listen to audio, it's called Notes from a Spirit Baby Medium, Everything You Need to Know About Spirit Baby Communication. And the book I've been writing for years, to be honest.
yeah.
And in 2019, I kept visualizing the book should be done. It wasn't done. And then in 2020 was a big disaster, right? We were like, what are we doing there? And I got really sick in the beginning of that year and had all these, yeah, I was like, okay, I don't think it's happening, and a little bit here and there. And then still in the pandemic energy was so weird. And then last year, right before, actually say 2023, I was like, you know what, Kelly, what are you waiting for? Just finish the book. Like it's that easy. Because there's a lot of insecurities in writing a book, right? You're like,
Right.
oh my gosh, what am I putting out there? Is this hogwash? Like, what is this stuff? Like, and then my dad started, his lineage was changing. He was leaving his body all of a sudden. And then that right before that, I was like, it pushed me because then he did die. And then I was like, I was already doing the book and I even hired the editor and I was like, you know what? It's got to be done. What are you waiting for? I felt like this book was written a long time ago, but it never got it out in the physical form. And so, death is going to make you do things very differently. And so it's a lot to write a book. It takes up a lot of time and energy. It was very fun to write, and it was really awesome to get it edited and organized. And this is just book one of other ideas that I have with even just birth loss specific story book and maybe even the New Earth children or the children. What are our children? What are we doing with them now that they're in their Earth bodies? And so this was a labor of love, we'll say, and it's here, and I'm happy and I'm excited. And I have different chapters. I have conception, I have infertility, I have pregnancy, I have miscarriage, I have stillbirth, and I have New Earth children, and a little bit of what you do after. And the really cool thing about the book is it comes with inside most of the chapters, 7 meditations with QR codes, which you can either click through a link or the QR code. And there's even one for couples. I want to like meet everybody's needs, and they're all paired with specially handmade, I call them binaural beat lullabies. So you have music involved. So it's not just you reading the meditation. You can click in and experience the frequency that I want to share from the spirit baby realms for you on your own personal journey.
That's really great. I love that. I mean, frequencies of sound is definitely something that I'm very into. So I'm with you on that. It's very, very powerful. In fact, the Hathors, if you're familiar with the Hathor beings, that is how they actually communicate is through high frequency sound with us.
Mm.
So it's and maybe I have sparked some research for you, Kelly. They are incredible beings, and I really like them. So that might be something that interests you. But anyway, your book is incredible, and I hope that anyone listening to this will definitely pick it up. And so, Kelly, how can people find you?
So you can find me at newearthchildren.com, or I love Instagram at Spirit Baby Medium. I'm on Instagram. Those are the best places to begin. I have a podcast, Spirit Baby Radio. So you can come and tune in to me there as well, and emailing me. So those are the best ways to kind of find me.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely make sure that I include that in the show notes so anyone listening to this will have easy access to click on those links rather than having to write them down as we're talking in this podcast today. And then one last thing. So you do have a 7-week program for people that are trying to conceive. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I try to offer it once or twice a year. I know we talked about like how many times a year. It's called co-creation because you are in co-creation with your baby, a journey with spirit baby communication. So it's 7 weeks and it's frequency, it's vibrational. Every week leads into the next week, and we meet in a network. So you get all the connection with the other students as well, or clients or ladies, typically ladies, getting together in that space and changing your energy, like working through exercises, meditations, this is somatic work, and it's for anyone in natural or intervention conception. And it's really my intentional energy is to change the story. The old story is not working. So let's go into the energy. Let's go into the behind the scenes and restructure it and bring this baby being here. Bring him here, bring the healing here, whatever it is that you need and whatever it is that you're in creative forces with.
I love that. Well, that's absolutely amazing. And I'm sure that there are so many people that get so much out of that. And thank you so much, Kelly, for all that you do and helping bring these babies to the earth, but also in helping their parents and really just being the light that you are. It's absolutely incredible. And I am so grateful to have met you as a mentor, but also just knowing you is absolutely wonderful. And so, Kelly, do you have any last words for any inspirations or anything you want to say to the listeners?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me. And me and Lindsay were like talking before for quite some time. We were like really clicking in here into so many awesome conversations and connections, and I love it and I appreciate it. Any final words? Wherever you are on the journey, just keep connecting with your heart, with Spirit Baby, and just let your heart open to baby energy. Even just that alone is enough. And then just keep expanding into that love and see where it takes you. And again, Spirit Baby Being is on your side. You are in communication, you are connected, and I'm going to leave you with that.
Well, I love that, Kelly. Thank you so much. That's an absolutely beautiful message. And I'm sure that is going to inspire so many listening to this. Thank you for being on Fertile Frequencies.
Thank you for having me.